Today, we're cracking open one of the most explosive political books ever written, Vladimir Lenin's The State and Revolution. You gotta remember, this was written in the thick of 1917, so this isn't some dusty academic theory. It's a practical guide for turning the world upside down. Let's get into it and see what this blueprint is all about.
Okay, so to really get what Lenin is trying to say, you have to start with this one massive question. Do you think of the state as a neutral referee? Something that just fairly resolves conflicts for the good of everyone? Or is it something else entirely? Is it a weapon designed by one group to keep another one down? Lenin's answer to that question is what makes this whole book so radical.
All right, first up, Lenin's core argument about what the state really is. In his view, forget about it being some kind of benevolent guardian. Nope, it's a tool of oppression, plain and simple. So where does the state even come from? This is where it gets really interesting. Lenin pulls directly from Friedrich Engels, and he argues that the state isn't some natural thing that's always been there. It only pops into existence when society splits into different economic classes, and their interests are so completely at odds that they just can't be settled peacefully. So the state, from this point of view, is basically a symptom of a society that's at war with itself. And this slide just lays it out perfectly, right? On one side, you've got the Marxist view. The state is a weapon. It's proof that this class conflict can't just be smoothed over. But on the other side, you have the view that Lenin absolutely attacks, the one he calls opportunist. And that's the idea that the state is a neutral mediator that brings classes together. For Lenin, that's not just wrong, it's a dangerous fantasy that hides what the state is really for.
So what gives the state its power? Its teeth? Well, according to Lenin and Engels, it comes down to these specific things. We're talking about a standing army and a police force that are separate from everybody else. We're talking about prisons and all the other ways of forcing people to do things. And then there's the bureaucracy, the officials who stand above the rest of society. See, these aren't tools for everybody. They're the specialized gear used by the ruling class to stay in charge.
Okay, so that brings us right to the next step, and this is where things get, well, a lot more radical. If the state is a weapon of oppression, then the goal for a revolution isn't to just capture it and use it for yourself. The goal is to smash it completely.
He's not just pulling this out of thin air. He's leaning heavily on Karl Marx's analysis of what happened in France. Marx looked at all these past revolutions and noticed a pattern. Every time a new group got power, they just took over the existing state machine, the army, the officials, and just made it run better. They tweaked it, they perfected it, but they never actually got rid of it.
And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the whole argument. For Lenin, a real revolution can't just be a change in management. It has to be something totally different. You don't take over the machine that was built to oppress people, you have to obliterate it.
Okay, this is the point that trips a lot of people up, so let's get it straight. Lenin draws a really clear line here. The violent revolution part, that's about smashing the existing capitalist state, the bourgeois state. But that famous idea of the state withering away, that only applies to the brand new worker state that gets built to replace it, a state that's actually designed to eventually just fade away.
So, you smash the old machine. What now? What do you build to replace it? That brings us to part 3. Lenin's idea for a temporary and radically different kind of state, the workers' state.
And here it is, that famous, and let's be honest, often totally misunderstood phrase, dictatorship of the proletariat. Quoting right from the Communist Manifesto, Lenin says it's simple. It's just the working class organized as the new ruling class. The whole point isn't to oppress everybody, but to specifically suppress the old rulers, the bourgeoisie, while a new kind of society is built.
And this wasn't just some theory floating around in his head. Lenin points to a real, actual historical event, the Paris Commune of 1871. For just a short time, the working people of Paris took over the city and started to build a totally new kind of government. For Marx, and later for Lenin, the Commune was this incredible, real-world glimpse of what a workers' state could actually be.
So what made it so different? It just flipped the whole idea of a state on its head. It got rid of the professional army and replaced it with armed citizens. It made every single official elected and, get this, recallable at any moment. And maybe most importantly, it got rid of all the special perks of power. Officials were paid the same as an average worker. This wasn't just a reform, it was a total teardown of the old way of doing things.
And this gets to a really sharp critique of how we often think about democracy. The Commune wasn't set up to be a talking shop, where politicians just debate and debate. No, it was a working body. The very same people who passed the laws were also in charge of carrying them out. It completely blurred that line between talking and doing.
All right, now we get to the last part, and honestly, it's the most mind-bending piece of the whole puzzle. The idea that the state eventually just disappears.
Engels has this incredible quote that just paints such a vivid picture of the endgame. The idea is that once you've gotten rid of class divisions, the whole reason for having a state, a special tool for one group to hold down another, it just vanishes. The state becomes a historical artifact. You'd find it in a museum, right next to a spinning wheel or a bronze axe, a tool from a bygone era.
Okay, so let's recap the whole journey, step by step. Step 1, the revolution smashes the old state. Step 2, a new temporary worker state is put in its place. Step 3, that new state is used to get rid of class divisions entirely. And that leads to the final step, step 4, once there are no classes left, the state has no purpose. It becomes obsolete and just withers away.
So it's super important to get this. The withering away isn't a violent act. It's not about abolishing the state overnight. It's this gradual, slow fade. The idea is that as society becomes truly classless and communist, the things the state used to do become just simple administrative tasks that everyone can take part in. The need for this special force standing over everyone else just dissolves.
And that's where we'll leave it. It's a heavy text, right? Written over 100 years ago in the middle of a world war. But that central idea, that the state is fundamentally a tool of class domination, is a massive challenge to how we think about power even today. So the question is, how does this century-old blueprint for upheaval force us to re-examine the institutions we live with every single day?